This is an example of a digital archive for a verbal lore, personal narrative, titled Where I Was on 9/11. The informant data should contain the personal and geographic details of the person telling the story. Hi, my name is Heather Myers. I was born in Attleboro, Massachusetts in 1980. I currently live in Massachusetts, but I have also lived in New York and in Connecticut. My parents are May and Carl Myers. My mom's side of the family is from Scotland, and my Scottish heritage is really important to me. I have one older sister and two younger sisters from my dad's second marriage. I'm currently a part-time faculty member at Bridgewater State University and a full-time senior project manager at Pearson. I have degrees from Wagner College on Staten Island, Harvard University, and soon-to-be Purdue University. I really like watching movies and reading books, especially science fiction and horror, and I enjoy hanging out with my friends who are like a second family to me. The contextual data should explain when, where, and why the story is told and should provide insight into the meaning the story holds for the teller. So this is a story that I only ever tell on 9/11 or when other national tragedies occur, like the Marathon bombing. It's not something I have a tendency to bring up on my own because it's still very emotional for me. I only tell it when other people are telling their stories as well. This was a defining moment in my life. It happened when I was doing my undergrad in college, and it was a defining moment, I think, in American history. In my mom's generation, they talk about where they were when JFK was killed. In my generation, we talk about where we were when the towers fell. And this event really changed how I looked at the world and how I looked at our place in the world as American citizens. And up until this moment, I had never really understood what people meant about a day where they can remember exactly where they were in every moment. And 9/11 was that day for me. And as horrible as the day was, it's not a day I want to forget. I don't want to forget those moments because they have helped shape who I am today. Personal narratives are a form of verbal lore that become part of a person's or a group's individual folklore. They are stories that resonate and have meaning. Survival stories can be particularly poignant, and a digital archive should express this. The teller and the lore should always be treated with respect. On September 11th, 2001, I was attending Wagner College on Staten Island in New York City. The dorm that I was living in was called Harborview, and all of the windows in our lounge looked over New York Harbor with a perfect view of the Twin Towers. That morning I woke up and I went into the bathroom, and as I was brushing my teeth, a girl on my floor came in and said that she had just seen a plane hit the Twin Towers, or at least one tower. We all pretty much stopped what we were doing, rushed into our dorm rooms and turned on our TVs, and as I was getting dressed and watching the television, the second plane hit. My response to stressful events is to keep going, so I actually got my backpack and headed to class, which was a theater lab in the theater office. And as I was waiting for the elevator to come and pick me up, I refused to look out the windows because I didn't want to see what was happening in the city. When I got to the theater office, I was the only student there, but all of the professors were there, and the head of the department, and the theater secretary was crying her eyes out. She had just heard from her husband, who was a police officer, that he was being called into the city. Very quickly, it was decided that we weren't going to have classes that day, and that I was to go tell as many theater students as I could find that classes and rehearsal were canceled, and so was shop. So I headed back down the hill to the dorm rooms, and as I was walking down, my friend Eve, who was an EMT, was walking up, and she was fully dressed in her EMT gear, and she had also been called into the city. I think at that point it really hit me how bad things were. The fact that they were calling in a, teenage sophomore to go help out. So I got to the theater dorms, and I told as many people as I could, and they, of course, called people and told them. Tried to get a call out to my mom, but I couldn't, so my friend Tammy's mom actually called my mom from Maine. And we spent the day sitting and talking and watching the news together. We were in that dorm when the towers fell, and then we moved back to Harborview on my floor and sat in our common room and talked. And I remember looking out the windows and seeing the ferries moving between Staten Island and New York. And later we found out that they were actually evacuating people off of the island, off of Manhattan to Staten Island. I don't remember much after the sun went down. I don't remember what I did that night. I just remember sitting and talking with my friends and looking out the windows. And it took me months afterwards to actually look out those windows again and see how the city skyline had changed.